completely in terms of spirituality. We are not even healed politically. We are not even healed economically. We are not even healed socially.
Yes.
We are not.
We're not allowed to heal spiritually.
Exactly. We're not healed as a country.
Yes.
So we may change, from
The
one.
aesthetics,
Yes,
the
and even
cosmetics,
the
and
cosmetics of it even change.
the pictures.
You can have as many political parties as you want, and each political party, by the way, does not speak to African spirituality. None. I'm talking about those that are formed by blacks. They are not
Yes.
inclusive of or including African spirituality, because this is the one, a space whereby it questions it's not that to question the politics, because politics
Just,
were not part of the African way. It speaks of just addressing the issues that were oppressed, the issues that were erased, stolen, the atrocity, the bloodshed,
yes.
and
And to acknowledge those who gave their lives.
who gave their lives,
To say we see you,
exactly,
we know you are still there, because as Africans we don't believe in death.
exactly,
Life continues. We continue.
exactly. So until we are ready to have those conversations, a parliament is going to explode with so many political parties, and unfortunately, none is better than the other. None is better than the other, because they shift from one political party because of a certain individual, then they form another one.
Yes,
Not,
yes.
it's a pattern. It's a
Yes.
pattern. Nothing has changed. So
Yes.
until, as Africans, we are ready to sit down and say, first things first, let us acknowledge those that gave their lives for where we are today. Starting as far back as, the 100-year frontier and Mfetsane wars, for instance, if you are to go that direction.
Yes.
And even the wars that came before that, you need to
Yes.
acknowledge the fact that the blood that was shed, our kings being decapitated, today,
Taken to Europe,
to Europe
for display.
Exactly. I mean, in
Yes.
1835, when King Hitsa of Amagcaleka and Amaxhosa was decapitated, his head was taken to Europe
For display.
and that
as a
alone,
conquest.
that we've decapitated a so-called king, a tribal leader, and
I'm
so
sure
on.
in the language of today, they would call him a terrorist.
Of course, they would call him because
Yes.
that's the manipulation of colonialism. As long as as the colonizer enter into your space, they are the ones who've got the right to govern and
Take care of the language,
take care of everything.
representation, and governance, and everything.
Exactly, including parts of culture that were manipulated as well.
Yes.
So it's a long way. It's a long way, and unfortunately, institutions like Wits, for instance, UCT, Stellenbosch, are only now coming into accepting African spirituality, even on paper.
Yes, on policies
On paper to
yes.
say a student who's in their honors wants to do their research on traditional healers, the sacred space, African cosmology, African
Yes.
epistemologies, as well as African astrology.
Yes.
Even if it's on theory alone, the fact that it's actually accepted is actually a move in the right direction. I can't imagine that being allowed in pre 2010, for instance. I don't envision it.
Or pre 1994.
Post 1994, I don't see people. I don't foresee or see people as being accepted to even do their thesis for their PhD, particularly on issues of spirituality. It's always, if you look at even the books that were published during apartheid about traditional healers, for instance, majority of them were researched by white scholars that came from Rhodes University, that came from Sussex, and that
Yes.
came from Oxford and Cambridge, and
Who had deep pockets,
who had
wanted to
deep
explore
pockets,
Africa.
and they would go to the villages in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal,
Yes.
and would find these women singing and would just take pictures and put them on camera,
And I'm sure some of them are just students.
well, exactly.
Learning about.
And then in the end,
you know.
they go back, then they graduate, and that's the end of it. That's the end of it. And you find that later on, when some of these scholars are dying and their estates are distributed or sold, you find these very old texts, these books, and you're like, how? This is a book that was published as a thesis in 1971, speaking about young girls who are going into Iri dancing, and one of them is
Yes.
actually a child of ancestors and so on, and was caught up by amadlozi at that time. And
Yes.
you ask yourself, why was this accessible to white scholars, and why was it not accessible to
African scholars.
African scholars?
Yes, because they would do a better job.
Exactly. So for the other one, it's just research. It's just extraction of information. It's just an opportunity for them to say, I went to Africa and I got this kind of research done, and I got the evidence, and here it is. It's just clout. It's just clout, because why should we actually applaud a white scholar from Europe who's coming to investigate about indigenous knowledge in Southern Africa, whereas for the longest time, people from Southern Africa were prevented and prohibited from
Yes.
embarking on that
journey.
that journey, and not just on the academic side, but on the physical and spiritual side. This was
practical
banned.
side, yes.
It was banned and was regarded as part of witchcraft. And as of 1957, that act prohibited any form of research, any form of spiritual practice, any form of spiritual consultation. And as I said in our previous talk, that there was a point when we were growing up in South Africa whereby traditional healers were almost absent. You would swear they did not exist.
Yes, it did say there was a law that prevented.
It prevented them. You saw
on, I think it was called Witchcraft or something.
Yeah, Prohibition of Witchcraft Act of 1957 under the new apartheid system. And you ask yourself, hey man, but our people had no access to that. But funny enough, white South Africans, and in fact any white person that came with a camera and a crew would be allowed to capture these people, and you find yourself.
And our welcoming villages would welcome
them.
These charlatans.
These charlatans, because they are white, and also the fear of the fear of, if you reject these people, it will be treason in South Africa, because it allowed them, because of their color of their skin. But now what is very painful is the fact that they were there to extract, to excavate all the indigenous sacred knowledge that belonged to us.
Yes.
And they used it for whatever,
frivolous
things they wanted. Misconception and direction they want to perpetuate in a negative, way in the West. So these are the things that were expected to be answered after 1994.